Call the Thursday, July 23rd Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda, review of the July 9th minutes. Any changes?
I have none.
Okay, stand as written. Next item on the agenda would be the June 2020 financial statement.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. This is a report of the summaries of revenue and expenditure activities for the City of Hayes, June 30, 2020. Revenues in June totaled $8,531,000. That's a decrease of $112,000 compared to the same period as last year. The notable areas of increased revenue. June is earmarked for transfers. Those were up $190,000. Those include transfers to several of the reserves and proprietary funds. All the rest of those transfers will be at the end of the year as we can evaluate those performances. Building permits for general government revenues were up $9,000. And in June, residential water consumption was up 22%, with business down negative 7.6. So year-to-date, total consumption is up 3.4%, with revenue up 6.8. Some revenue decreases. The bulk of the reduction in revenue mentioned above was in sales tax. As you may recall, we received the $325,000 from the county in the excess sales tax collected and not expended last year. Airport improvement grant funds were off $41,800 simply due to timing of receipts of distributions from the FAA. Expenditures in June totaled $5.6 million. That's a decrease of about $245,000. The notable areas of increased expenditure. Other contractual for Bickle Schmidt Sports Complex was up $11,000 due to the playground shelter structure put in. Finance professional services increased $17,700 for the payment on the audit. Parks improvement projects was up $11,000 for purchase of trees in various parks, and then also parent-child combo swing at the Qantas park. Qantas did donate for that. Solid waste reserves, new equipment expenditures rose $34,000. That was for the purchase of a 3/4-ton pickup that also had a plow and liftgate. Some decreased expenditures. Bulk of the decrease in expenditures mentioned above occurred in capital projects in the amount of $208,000. That was for the Ash, Elm, and Fourth reconstruction project a year ago. And water reserve expenditures fell $22,000 due to engineering services for the I-70 waterline project this time a year ago. Month to date, general fund sales tax collections were at $572,000. That's a decrease of $30,000 or negative 5% as compared to last year. Year-to-date collections are at $3,693,000. That's up $102,000 or 2.85%. The 6-month average is at 2.85. That's an increase of 93 basis points when compared to a year ago. And as previously reported, the negative 5% was a welcome sight when we compare to the original projection being down negative 30%. So especially given it represents a full month of collections during the COVID restrictions. The report of quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was up 24,000, 1.3%. And finally, the portfolio certificates of deposit on June 30 totaled $55.05 million with a weighted average interest rate of 1.3. That is down 1.1 from a year ago. Total U.S. Treasuries at par value of $1.477 million with a weighted average yield to maturity of 1.59. Total balance on the money market account on June 30 was $1.5 million with a current yield of 5 basis points. So total investments are down $7.323 million when compared to this time last year.
I'll make a motion that we accept the June 2020 financial report.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments, Commissioners? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Kim. Next item on the agenda would be citizen comments for non-agenda items. Okay, next item on the agenda would be the consent agenda. I have a recommendation.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda would be introduction of J.D. Cox, Ellis County Administrator. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. I wanted to come by and say hello officially. I know I've met most folks, maybe with one exception. It is nice to be here. I think probably a lot of folks know that My wife has a lot of ties to this area, so in earlier days we came to this area, to Hayes specifically, quite often. So the other day I was at the grocery store, and lady struck up conversation. Oh, you lived here long? Well, 2 weeks. And and she said, oh, where'd you move here from? Florida. And she actually almost got angry. Why? I said, why wouldn't I? It's a beautiful place. It's home, in a way. It's home for us, and we just love it here. I am glad to be here. I've been in local government for about 23 years. I've been in as a chief administrative officer for 16, and in all my career, I've had difficult things we've had to deal with over the years, but I've never seen something so controversial as these seem to be. They inflame both sides of the argument, and so I would just like to share just a word of a thought for you, that try to be understanding of the other side. Everybody's got a point of view. In case anybody doesn't know, I try to be an open book about things. I was wearing one of these before it was fashionable to wear one. Back in December, especially in January, when I would go to the store, I had to wear a mask. And the reason why, in November 24th, I had a heart transplant. So the medicine I took to keep my body from rejecting the heart lowers your immunity. So I was concerned about those things then. So wearing a mask is no big deal to me. We have one of our governing body members is here tonight. Just as you all, you're the commission, you deal with policy. We have Jason is here, and he's going to advise on health. But what I can share with you is from a management standpoint, in all my career too, we've always fought for local control for things. It always seems like the state likes to preempt, and no matter what state you're in, the state likes to preempt local decision making. In fact, our neighbors up north, they have what's called Dillon's Law there, where you can't make any local laws without asking the state's permission unless they've already given it. We want to change our grass ordinance and the height of weeds, and we had to ask the legislature permission to do that. So it's a gift in a way. It may not feel like a gift at times, but it is a gift. And from a management standpoint, the way when I came here, the county was considering if we should continue with the mask mandate from the governor's office. And the idea then was that what applies to Wyandotte County or Sedgwick County may not apply to Ellis County. Well, I think that same, as you can extrapolate that same argument locally. Maybe what makes sense in Hayes doesn't apply to some of our other areas of the county. So I just leave that with you. The final thing is, I've been working a lot with Toby since I've gotten here. I've lost track of how many times we've gotten together, actually. It's been several. So I'm looking forward to working with Toby very closely as we move forward in the future. With you all, to invite you, if you ever have questions or like to visit about anything, please don't hesitate to give me a call, or call our commissioners as well. I'd invite you to do that as well. Let's keep a good dialogue going. And even when we have a disagreement, where I was in November with my failing health, I couldn't wait for the day so I could get back in the swing of things and get involved and deal with the subjects of the day. And I've been given that gift, and so on we go. And let's take this on. Let's be caring of one another and different points of view, and we'll be better off for it. And I think Hayes is an absolutely beautiful community. I'm so excited to be here, and the county is beautiful in a different way, and just really happy to be here. So again, invite you to get a hold of me if you ever need anything.
Welcome.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
for coming.
All right, next item on the agenda, City of Hayes Face Mask Ordinance. I'm going to call Dr. Hammond. I know he needs to speak about this because he wants to leave real quick. I will ask, because it looks like we got a packed house, that we're going to limit it. I know many want to speak more, but we just don't have time, even though this is extremely important. Limit it to 3 minutes, and please keep it to something different and not repeat the same thing. So thank you all for coming. Dr. Hammond.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here as a resident of the city for the last 33 years, and there isn't a place that I enjoy more than Hayes, Kansas. And I think that over those 33 years, I've seen the City Commission act to protect our community in so many different ways. And so I'm hopeful that as you consider this mask ordinance, that you will do it not because we face a drastic problem right now. I mean, we're not New York or even one of the 11 cities that were just released today that have to look at closure of businesses again and a recommendation from the CDC along with face masks and social distancing. I'm recommending and hoping that you would pursue this as a way of protecting our environment, protecting our community in a very effective way. We are entering the month of August here in another few days, and it's a month when schools are looking at reopening, a K through 12 environment, the university. We will have 4,000 new students coming back into the community, and we need to protect the environment that we have now, an environment that is one that we are very proud of. So I'm hopeful that you will do it not because in a reaction to a big problem, but because it's the right thing to do to protect our environment and to protect our city. It's a step that is not difficult for the citizens to implement, and it, along with social distancing, will, in effect, I think, be able to help stop the disease's growth in our community that we have now. So I hope you will do that. I know that Dr. Mason is here, and she's more than eloquent enough to speak on behalf of the university and all the plans that they have to make our community safe as they bring their students back. Thank you very much for the 3 minutes tonight, and thank you very much for 33 years of support of our community.
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Hammond.
Hammond.
Okay, do we want to, is Tisa available out there?
Right
I didn't
here.
see her. I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Tisa.
She's
Would you
hiding
like to
behind.
talk to Tisa first? And then Jason, if it's okay, I'll probably have you come up and talk.
Thank you very much. Again, as I was here just a few weeks ago, and I was talking about the university mask policy. And at that time, I said we were strongly encouraging the mask. So I really wanted to set the record straight that as community spread has increased in our conversations with the state epidemiologist, we have decided that we are going to mandate masks on our campus with over 4,000 students. We think it's the right thing to do because we have a caring environment, as I talked last time. It's about respect. I'm not worried about myself getting it, but I want to make sure I protect other people. And as we look at social norming and we look around the environment, the more that our students, our 4,000 students that want to come here and be part of this community, get a consistent message, the more helpful it will be for us to work with the students. And I'm happy to take questions. I'm just here to inform you that the policy has changed, as has athletics, because I gave you all the first game dates last time, and that's been moved back a month. So we continue to evolve in our practices, again, with our students and our community safety at the heart of it all. I want to thank you for your leadership during these tough times, and we trust you, and we'll move forward together, whatever your decision is.
Dr. Mason, I just wanted to comment on Dr. Grady Dixon. He has been extremely helpful to me over the last couple of weeks with data and information that he has been gathering, not only in his own work, but for the university, and I'm sure in your policies. He's presented it in a way to me that I could read it quickly. I could look at all of the data, and I didn't have to delve deep into a lot of stuff. So I really appreciate him and his efforts and everything he's done to help me out.
He is a very talented and actually humorous guy.
He certainly is. He certainly is.
Thank you for being willing to adjust to the difficult times on a daily basis. Thank you. Jason, would you like to come up and give us just a quick update on numbers? I don't want you to have to repeat everything you said Monday, but if you just give us a quick update, if you don't mind. And I will say, everybody, when you do talk tonight, if you just announce your name for the record, I apologize. I should have said that earlier.
Sure. Jason Kennedy, Public Health Officer for the Ellis County Health Department. So as you guys meet tonight, I understand you guys have a pretty difficult decision in front of you. What you guys have to decide is the decision of mandate or not. KDHE, CDC, all recommend. Public health officers recommend. We don't get the ability to make mandates. That's for governing bodies. So as we think about that, KDHE, CDC recommend the use of a cloth face covering anytime you cannot maintain social distancing of greater than 6 feet. So you guys decide on the level of that, where that goes and how that impacts the community. As we look at Ellis County, we have 34 active cases. Our 7-day average percent of positive. Average percent of positive is what, how many tests are conducted, how many of those actually come back positive. 7-day average percent of positive is 9%. 7-day average cases per day is 4.6. Current hospitalizations still stand at 2. We do have one, unfortunately, we have lost one resident of Ellis County since the start of the pandemic. Our current case rate is 3.5 cases per 1,000. The reason why cases per 1,000 is so important is because population density makes a difference. The more dense your population, the easier it is for viruses to transmit, the easier it is for them to transmit at a more rapid rate. So 3.5 cases per 1,000, that puts us 39th in the state of Kansas as far as cases per 1,000 as they stand across the entire duration. That's not just active cases, that's cases throughout the duration of the pandemic. So 3.5 cases per 1,000. If you look at the 8 counties that are grouped by population density, so if you look at the 4 counties that are bigger than us and the 4 counties that are smaller than us, their cases per 1,000 are 12.84. We stand at 3.5. They are 12.84 cases per 1,000 on average. Our first positive case was March 12th. We removed restrictions May 27th. From May 27th through July 3rd, when the mask mandate, from the governor's office, the mask mandate went into effect July 2nd for the state of Kansas. From March 27th through July 3rd, we had 19 total cases. Now, if we look at the time period from July 3rd to today, we've added 70 total cases, which brings our total to 3.5, which means that we have 3.5 cases per day as our case growth from July 3rd till now. Like I said, as you guys look at this tonight, I don't get the opportunity to mandate. Currently, right now, in our pandemic plan that was in place prior to COVID, that was based on data from the last 150 years of viral transmission, mandatory face masks are not included at this point in our state, in our pandemic plan. But as Dr. Norman says, just because a county's guidelines may be more relaxed, it doesn't mean individuals should relax their own safety precautions. People need to take an individualized stake in this. Face masks work. They work in indoor environments. They work in high population density and high viral load environments. They do show an effectiveness not only for the user, but for the individual wearing them, or they show effectiveness on both sides. They work in high population dense, high viral load environments. They work inside residences with individuals that are positive. They work in healthcare facilities. How they work in community mitigation, we will find as we move through this pandemic. You guys have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions. You know, I was quoted in the county commission the other day about saying how I think you're one of the smartest people in Hayes right now, and I think you're one of the hardest working people in Hayes, in Ellis County. And yes, I did voice my frustration to a county commissioner that I'm frustrated that we as a city have to make this decision, but you know, I put my big boy pants on and I'll make that decision. But I 100% respect what you're going through. You've said it over and over. This is, you know, you have kids, you have a family, and this is just as important to you as it is me. And I 100% respect everything you've said. Whether I 100% I vote with what you say or not, I respect what you're doing for our community. And I really appreciate it. You've been a stand-up guy, and I appreciate everything you've done, because this cannot be easy, sir. And I appreciate everything you've done.
You know, as we look at this, I think the only way to get through this is with empathy. And we need to understand that every side, every person has something they care about. I've got a 93-year-old grandmother in a long-term care facility. I've got 2 parents that are battling cancer. I've got 3 kids under 8. Every single one of us has a population that we care about, a population that we serve. How we do that and how we impact them and how we empathize with them and how we build leadership and trust, how they build trust in us, determines how we make it through the backside of this.
Thank you.
Jason, how many people, do you know how many people we have right now quarantined in Ellis County?
So we have 34 active cases. which means that there's 34 positives that are currently in their isolation period. So active cases means that it's someone that is in their 10-day window or they are still symptomatic. That window can be extended. It doesn't just stop at 10 days. If your symptoms don't go away, we continue it out. So there's a couple of metrics for that of how we remove people from isolation. But we have 34 active positives. I do not have off the top of my head a number of people that are quarantined because of each individual. I didn't prepare that for tonight.
Okay, that's fine, yeah, because I've heard of a lot of people that are being quarantined because they were exposed. And
Sure.
that
And-
number is seems like to me, I'm hearing more and more people that, can't go to work because they're quarantined.
Absolutely. And an important, so I take every opportunity I can to educate. Regardless of the mask mandate or no mask mandate, regardless of whether you're wearing a mask or no mask, that does not change your necessity to quarantine. So even if you're wearing masks, if you get a call from our office that says you need to quarantine or isolate, you need to quarantine and isolate. The intent of that is to slow the spread from the positives that we know of and anyone that is determined to be a close contact. Masks do not change that, and testing does not change that. You can't go and get a test 2 days later, come back negative, and stop quarantining, because with the latency period of the virus, you could conceivably test negative on day 2 and test positive on day 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. So regardless of what happens tonight, that the isolation, quarantine, and we need to be good about it. Ellis County needs to be strong with isolation and quarantine. That means no contact with anyone. It doesn't mean that, well, it's just a quick trip or it's just a quick this. No, quarantine and isolation mean no contact with anyone. If you have to seek out medical care, or if you have to seek out some kind of life-sustaining event, obviously that's a unique situation, but we need to be good about that.
Okay, thank you.
Jason, you said the current active cases now in the press release today, about 50% of them are from in-home contact with a known positive?
So on Wednesday, yes. So 50% of the active cases were from a familial contact that resided in the same home. And the reason why I put that out there is because we need to understand the predominant amount of viral. So the first thing we know about viruses is they transmit person to person. That's why these mitigation measures are important. That's why quarantine is important. That's why isolation is important. That's why social distancing is so important. We know that at 6 feet, we've cut our chances. At 8 feet, we've cut them even more. And at 10 feet, there's almost no chance you're going to contract COVID from that individual. So that social distancing is extremely important. That goes for in the home too. So if you have a positive in your home, you need to do everything you can to isolate that individual. And if you do have to be in a common space, both sides should wear a mask. Masks work inside the home. So it's, that goes back to the high population density, high viral load. You got small square footage, more people, more viral load. You need to take the extra steps to protect yourself.
Thank you.
Jason, I've really been impressed with your contact tracing system that you've put in place. I understand it, you have it all, when you identify one, you've pretty much got everything contacted within a 24-hour period.
Yes, so far. So it's our goal is less than 24 hours. Generally, it's significantly shorter than that. But obviously, if a case comes in overnight, something like that. So I've got the utmost respect for the people at the health department and really the EMS staff that's come over to help out as well. The people I have at the health department, they've been working 7 days a week. They've been working 10, 12, 14, whatever it takes to make sure that we're doing our part to protect the community. And they have done a phenomenal job.
Very good, thank you.
Please tell them thank you from us for what they're doing.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Jason, thank you so much.
Yep.
Thanks.
I believe on the phone we have Dr. Ernesto Lopez from Hayes Med, KU Med.
Commissioners, Toby Doherty, City Manager. I would remind you and anybody that's going to speak later on, we have people in the hallway that are listening, and we have speakers in the hallway, so make sure you're speaking into your microphones.
Okay.
And if you do come up here to speak, make sure you speak into the microphone so they can hear you in the hallway. Thank you.
Dr. Lopez?
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Doctor, if you want to go, this is Sandy Jacobs, City Commissioner, Vice Mayor. If you'd like to go ahead and make your statement, you're on a speaker now and can be heard throughout the room and out in the hallway and on our listeners online.
Okay. First of all, I did hear some of the comments given by the gentleman who preceded me, and I agree with a lot of the comments that he mentioned, the data and the statistics of how COVID is transmitted and also what is needed to contain this disease. I was asked to come and talk to you guys about masks and why masks are so important in trying to reduce the amount of infections and the transmission of COVID-19. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So there's a lot of data that shows that the usage of masks reduce the overall infection rate of COVID-19. So first of all, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but COVID-19 is an airborne transmitted disease, and that's how it's spread. It can also be spread person to person by close contact, because the droplets that have the virus are transmitted from person to person through the hands, and that's what we call the fomites. But also it can be sent through the air in droplets, or even worse, in much smaller molecules, which are aerosols. And those ones can be inhaled and taken to the lung, the trachea, all the airways, and cause infection. So what masks do, they stop the droplets from becoming aerosolized or atomicized and become very small particles that will enter the other person's airway. So this has been studied a lot. It's been studied even before COVID-19 happened. It was studied in SARS and MERS, and these two diseases are transmitted this way. And countries like China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and they have studied the effect of mass usage to decrease the caseload, and it is effective. It is not the only measure that needs to be taken to reduce the transmission, and that's why it's very important to use the distancing, the 6 feet distancing rule, but also the hand sanitizing, washing your hands, not going to events when there's crowds, especially if it's indoor, just because all these particles, are floating in the air. Once the droplets come out of our mouth and they become an aerosol, then they become very small particles and they're just floating all over the place. So if we're indoors, it becomes worse. So using all these measures is what really is going to contain the spread of the disease. Now, one thing that is very important to mention, and I want to emphasize on this, is that 40% of the infections are transmitted by asymptomatic carriers, okay? Asymptomatic carriers are people that are either in the prodromal phase or in that incubation period before feeling all the symptoms from COVID, and but they can be infectious themselves. That's why people have to wear the mask and follow all the other rules systemically. Everyone has to do it, and it is very inconvenient, but it is what it's proven to be worth. There's 2 studies that have shown this. One is what happened to Europe after the pandemic broke out, and they had all these cases going on, and the mortality rate was pretty high, and they quarantined their population, isolated everyone. Then they start slowly coming out. They required everyone to use masks and to follow all these guidelines that I mentioned before. By doing that, the rate of new cases is around 100 per day in those countries. So that's nothing compared to what's happening here. In New York City, when the pandemic hit and the cases, blew out, after all that happened, and then they started getting less and less cases, then they started opening it up, but they put a very strict rule about using masks and social distancing, etc. But people start going out, and the rate of new cases is still very low, in the 100 cases per day. So, and I just recently read that I think yesterday they didn't even have 1 case in New York City. Whereas in the rest of the country, where the states opened up without the mandate of use masks, the cases are soaring, and we have all this explosion of cases. There's also a comparison between the states that have a mandate of mask usage versus states that have no mandate, and there is a big difference in the number of cases that are being counted every day. So with that in mind, I just want to finish my presentation by saying that masks do work. They don't reduce the cases to 0%, but they do work. It's the only thing that is going to help us prevent the number of cases if we want to go out and open the businesses and go to stores and let people get out of the house. But we also have to follow the rules of distancing and sanitizing our hands, washing our hands, not touching our faces. If we change the mask, it has to be, we have to wash it daily. We have to wash our hands after touching our faces, because all that vapor does go around the mask, and those particles do get in our face. So with that, I leave it. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
I don't, Dr. Lopez. This is Mayor Sean Musil. Commissioners, did you guys have any other questions for him?
I understand Eddie Herman called on you at the very last moment, Dr. Lopez, so we really appreciate you making yourself available to make that statement. Yes. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for taking
Thank you
the
very
time.
much. I'm happy to do this, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. I think that's all of our scheduled speakers we have. So I guess whoever wants to go first, I just, if you would, state your name. Try to keep it under 3 minutes, and try not to repeat. We got a long meeting here, but I do want to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you for coming, everybody.
I'm Agnes Meyer, and I would hope that you will do everything in your power to get this pandemic under control. We've talked about the danger to the young children, to the schools, to the colleges, to the businesses. I haven't heard much about the senior citizens. My sister is in one of the senior residences here in Hayes. She has been a very active person all of her life. She's had a lot of fun. She now suffers from some dementia. The nursing homes around here, and I'm sure it's all over the country, have locked down. The residents cannot leave the building unless there is some reason. My sister fell and hurt her leg, and so they took her by the ambulance to the hospital where she had an x-ray, and they called me to pick her up and bring her back to the residence. Her leg was fine, but just recently the nurses noticed her feet and legs were swelling very badly. And you know what happens when you don't move around? Your legs swell. They wanted me to take her to the doctor, so I did. Each of these cases, when I brought her back to the home, she was quarantined in her room 24 hours a day. And she understands about the virus, and she knows it's bad, but she's going out of her mind. She will be out of the quarantine period soon here. But imagine being in one room for the rest of your life, basically, if something happens and you have to go outside the building. I'd please consider those people in your choices. Thank you.
Definitely will. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you for letting me address the City Commission. I'm Craig Pallister. I'm a retired school administrator from Hayes. I am now on the USD 489 school board. I am not representing the USD 489 school board. I am one of 6 members right now, and we are going through the process of trying to reopen schools. And what I would like to do, and what my homework has been, is trying to learn from the medical field, the experts, on what is the best way to protect the kids of USD 49 in Hayes, Kansas, and be one of the Board of Education that votes to reopen at a date later decided. And so right now, like I said, I am encouraging you to look at it as a mask ordinance, even if it only helps one family, one kid, or the entire district reopen. Our schools are so important that we get our kids back to school with that. So my main, like I said, I'm a retired administrator, I'm on the school board, but my main emphasis is I'm a grandpa of a 3rd grader. So I want a safe return to schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Hi, my name's Aniston Weber. I've lived in Hayes my entire life, and I am a Fort Hayes student right now. I'm here today as a resident of this community who is immunocompromised. If I catch COVID, I could die. I take plenty of precautions on my own. I'm a firm believer in social distancing and wearing the mask. We need to come together as a community to protect the citizens that face additional struggles. For example, I work from home. Aside from doctor's visits, I don't leave the house much. My significant other, on the other hand, does not get to work from home. He's interacting with customers on the daily that don't wear masks. As we learn more about the effectiveness of these masks, we currently understand that in order for them to work, everyone who can needs to wear them. If he is wearing a mask and someone isn't, he could catch it and then give it to me. The masks are made to prevent spit droplets and other particles from leaving your face and spreading into the air. Do I believe that the masks will make the virus disappear within our community? No. I do, however, believe that a mask mandate would lessen the chances of someone like me from contracting COVID. I know how uncomfortable masks are, but I also know that I would feel terrible if I unknowingly contracted COVID and then spread it to someone who could become devastatingly ill. I would rather be uncomfortable for the hour that I am out shopping or supporting local businesses than I would if I could have saved someone by wearing a mask. We need to start considering the lives of people who aren't ourselves. That includes considering the effects this will have on people who own businesses if they have to shut down again if our numbers continue to rise. For those that claim they can't function regularly with a mask on, there are other options. You can purchase groceries online, contactless delivery is still available, and you can even wear a plastic face shield. I stand here today feeling like I am begging for my life, and I am asking people to just wear the mask. I feel like my life is seen as expendable in this community because I have an underlying health condition. I am pleading with you today to mandate the masks. Every COVID case is different. We can't go on any longer. Things are going to get so much worse, and we could start losing our businesses again, as well as more lives. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Go ahead, sir. No, okay. Would you like to talk? Nope. Okay, Dave, go ahead.
I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Dave Stott. And I empathize with the young lady, but when my daughter was immune compromised before she passed away, we took the personal responsibility to make sure that we didn't take her out where she could catch anything. We didn't let anybody come by our house where she could catch anything. We took it, I didn't expect my neighborhood to all wear masks and my city to wear masks. I took the personal responsibility to say, if it's a dangerous situation, I'm not going to take my daughter there. My mother just passed away recently. Same thing. We took care of her, and we made it a point to take the responsibility for ourselves. And if, just as you said, I can go get groceries online, you can get groceries online the same way, and the safest place for you is to be at your house where you know you can control your environment. But to be able to put it on all the rest of the citizens of the city, you guys are elected to represent everybody, not just a few vocal people. Now, as I asked you, and I send emails out to you, to just go through the town, if you'd have traveled the town the last few nights, you'd have seen 98% of everybody you saw walking without masks. Now, that was their choice, because they felt confident that they could live their lives, and we're starting to get back to a period of normalcy again. And what you're asking us to do is throw masks on everybody, and I mean, it's just a horrible thing to think about. We're just finally getting back to where something. They talked about how masks work so well. I sent you many, many studies over the last 7 years that show masks don't work. The doctor talked about the atomized, your breath as it atomizes the virus. Well, I have to take my mask off because it hits my glasses all the time. That's your breath escaping that mask. I mean, everybody touches their mask. You're not supposed to touch your face. Well, the first thing the masks do is cause you to want to touch your face. So the numbers just don't make any sense. We've got 130-some cases. The CDC, I also sent you some clips I clipped earlier from the CDC. The CDC, a positive test means you could have a type of coronavirus, which is also the common cold. So can we say how many people we've got quarantined right now that may actually have the common cold? Yes. You can?
I can't actually answer that question. So
If you're going to come to the microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
No.
Like I said, I take every opportunity to educate. So Jason Kinney, Hill Service Director. With the CDC, with the positive test, so a PCR test is specific. So where they stick the swab up your nose and jab your brain, that is specific to COVID-19. There is no way to have, it is very extremely unlikely to have a false positive on that test. If you are positive on that test, you have COVID-19 viral material. Now, that does not mean that you're contagious. That doesn't mean that you can impact others. That doesn't mean that you have live virus inside of you. That means that you have some viral material of COVID-19. It can be inactive virus. You can be in the shedding phase. You can do that after your infection's over. You can still shed the virus. But the PCR testing, so we do have 34 active cases right now in Ellis County that are positive on a PCR test for COVID-19. Now, whether that's inactive or active virus, we don't know. That's not what the test shows. Now, the antibody test, you're exactly correct. The antibody testing that is out there, so if they test your blood or serology testing where they spit, those two tests can cross-react with standard coronavirus, normal common cold. Human coronavirus is common cold. That test does cross-react or can cross-react. Those tests are unreliable and not used for diagnostic. So with actual, we do have 98 total cases in 4.5 months of people that have tested positive on a PCR test, and it's highly unlikely that that number is incorrect.
Appreciate that.
Jason.
Well, the reality is we've had one death. Last winter, when we had just a regular seasonal flu, I can guarantee you we had in 10s or 20s. It's just a natural. My mother spent 6 years in Via Christi. Every year there'd be 2 to 5 to 10 people dying. I don't want to, minimize any death, but it's a part of what happens is when we have a virus. But we've had one death in a county of 28,000 people. That's 0.00035. That's not even close to a rounding error. I don't mind, being safe, but there comes a point where you can have an overreaction. I mean, people, like I said, people are in a state of normalcy right now. You were voted to represent all of the people in the city of Hayes, and I think we've got a vocal minority, and it's become political, and it's political all across the country. And I just think that we just need to stop and step back and see what most of the people in this city would like. And I ask that you reject this ordinance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Salt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to go next up here. Mr. Rose.
Hello, everybody. Dustin Rhodes, Ellis County Commissioner. How are you guys enjoying public service right now?
No problem.
Every day I get emails, and twice a day there's stories that go online that have people tell people that I'm anti-humanity and that I'm ill-informed and you know, the run of the mill. This is just what we get into when we get into public service. So I'm not going to talk about the effectiveness of masks. I think that Jason's done a good job of that. I think us as a county, we've recommended masks for a long time, as you have as well. I'm excited to hear that Fort Hays State is taking a step. Without any mandate, they're taking a step in what will be a high population density area of our county, our community, to help mitigate an extra level of mitigation for this. There were a couple things that we talked about in the county commission meeting that I think should be brought back up as a governance tool, because that's what you guys are doing. You're not doctors, right? You're trying to make a decision for everybody. If we let doctors govern us, it would be a whole different animal than if we let elected officials govern us, right? They see everything, and they are going to make more mitigating measures than maybe we would as an individual for ourselves, for our children, for our own families. I had a statistic about the amount of masks that are being worn now in the state of Kansas, and about 80% adoption across the state. That's these big counties. They take it on. Sedgwick, Johnson. That takes up a lot of our population in Kansas, right? We're a pretty low population density county, even for western Kansas. But of the 105 counties in Kansas, just so everybody doesn't think that somehow the county commission is off their rocker in Ellis County, 90 of them did not keep this mandate. Now, the top 15, there were a couple little small counties that kept it. But counties with a lot of caseload have not. Ford and Finney, some of what we would consider to be our peer counties who have meatpacking industry, who have had a lot of caseload, 5% positive caseload of their whole communities have gone away from this just because of the number of positives at any given time. So I want you to think about the precedents that you're setting. And I told my wife I would be brief when I'm up here. I'm probably longer than I even wanted to be. But I want you to think about our organization. We spend money to control and monitor infectious disease. We hired Jason to do a job and give us guidance. I think you need to ask yourself, is there a plan? And if there's a plan, do you trust the person implementing the plan, Jason, and the advice that he's giving us? And if those three things check off, that's where we came to at Monday night. But I do want to tell you that if you do decide to put an ordinance in for masks, I will support you, because I think that's what we should do. I am so sick and tired of people taking public officials like us who are in really tough situations and making our vote seem like we don't love or care about this community. I know that you all do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be up here working the way you are. So stop that. Please, all community, stop this. I want you guys to make a decision, the decision that's right for you, and with the data that you are given. I've always said that I will govern that way. I will not govern by emotion. I will only govern with data, and this does get emotional. So I will concede to you that while you make your decision. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Dustin.
Thank you. Who else would like to talk? Anybody else? Please speak your name for the record, please.
I'm Cheryl Duffy, and I probably haven't made it clear that I do appreciate the tough position that our elected officials are in, be they county commissioners or city commissioners. I know it's tough to make these decisions when the community is so split, but I've never attended a county commissioner meeting or a city commissioner meeting until this issue, because I believe that it is a critical issue, and it's a medical issue. It's a worldwide pandemic. And if it's a medical issue, then I would think that we would listen to the guidance from the medical community, like Dr. Lopez, who spoke this evening, and like my oncologist that I spoke with. And he said, anyone who has a history of a malignancy is at high risk. I'm a breast cancer survivor. He said, that puts me in a high-risk category. And he said, I don't understand why we would not have a mask ordinance in place when we're doing everything we can out here at the clinic to help people stay alive, and a mask ordinance would help greatly in that. And so we should have it. You know, if the mask mandate or the mask ordinance is wrong, then yeah, there's an inconvenience with that, right? But if the anti-mask ordinance folks are wrong, and we put more lives at risk, then it is a matter of life and death for some people, or you know, the after effects. Even if you survive the COVID-19, the after effects can be great and should be considered. And I just think I've had people that I don't even know contact me through Messenger on Facebook and say, you don't know me, but I am immunocompromised, and I want to thank you so much for speaking for those of us who are at high risk and feel as though we can't even go shopping in our own community because it's not safe. And I think a lot more people would feel safe if there were a mask ordinance, and I think more people would, I think it would actually be better for business. I know I would be more likely to go into a store if I weren't the only person in the store wearing a mask, which has been the case too many times to count. And two more quick things. One, you know, the issue was raised about personal accountability. Okay, personal responsibility, and I would just say, if someone is an essential worker, they don't have a choice if you come in without a mask. It's a point that Aniston made, but I'm not sure it was heard, that if you're an essential worker and you're out there and people are coming in without masks, you're getting exposed, and then you're bringing that home, maybe to your immunocompromised or high-risk person at home. Let's be proactive and not reactive to a crisis.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Amen. Thank you. If you would say your name for the record, please, sir.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Adam Peters. Earlier we heard Dr. Lopez say that in addition to wearing masks, we also need to change them regularly and wash them. We all know that's often not going to happen. Plenty of people are going to put on dirty masks and keep them on for long periods of time. Quite frankly, if it weren't for my wife, I wouldn't have known the importance of that. And that's a problem because members of this commission received an email that links to a study published in the British Medical Journal and an update published earlier this year that said that dirty masks are in themselves a health threat. People will get sick because they are following the ordinance but are not properly caring for their masks, which means that we don't know if this is going to save lives, and it could very well cost them. And if this is not a life-saving measure, this is not a measure that we know is going to work towards the health of the people of Hayes, it's a political gesture. If it's a political gesture, then it's compelled speech. And the Supreme Court has spoken very definitively on the issue of compelled speech. The mayor mentioned on, I believe it was July 17th, that he didn't know whether it would help or would make people feel good. Well, in 1977, the Supreme Court ruled that a man in New Hampshire had the right to cover up his state motto on his license plate because the state could not compel people to use their property as a billboard to send messages on behalf of the state. Well, if you cannot compel people to use their property to broadcast the state's message, you certainly shouldn't be able to compel people to use their body to carry that message, especially when it could put their body at risk. This is not a constitutionally permissible move, and I don't believe it is in the interest of the people of Hayes. I think it could very well make other problems, unforeseen problems, worse. So for that reason, I'm going to, I and other people, quite frankly, we're going to go elsewhere if compelled to wear a mask in the city of Hayes. And that's not something I want to do. I would like to support my local community. But this is not a measure I can support.
So I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Were you the one that had the email with many people's names that they would go to other, they won't shop in Hayes anymore?
That's correct, sir, yes.
I actually contacted one of those people because I actually knew that person today. So they never said that, and they've been shopping all day in Hayes.
Which person is
I'm
that,
not
sir?
going to say their name in public.
Well, sir, I'm sorry, I can't believe your statement then. I mean, if that's the position you're going to accuse.
I'm just saying, I got the email, and I asked her because she's a friend of mine. And she was very taken back, and I was shocked that her name was on it, to tell you the truth.
There are multiple people that often have similar names. Are you aware of that, sir?
Oh, yeah?
My name's Adam Peters, and I've actually met an Adam Peters. In fact, I had an Adam Peters at one point that owed money that insists on calling my cell phone on a regular basis.
Okay, I'm just a question. So your time is up. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't planning on talking, but I will.
Please do.
I'm Christine Weber, and I have several children, I have 5. And I have a hard time with the fact that you want to force us to be able to wear masks. I have had asthma in the past. I have a child with a heart defect, and 8 years ago, as a family, the doctors were not helping us get better. My son has had his heart was fixed at 3 months, so we took it upon ourselves as a family to heal our bodies and to become healthy. So when I'm a teacher, when I go to school, I can go to school confident knowing that I'm not going to get the flu or anything else, and if something comes my way, I know I can beat it because I take vitamin C, vitamin D3. We pack our bodies with immune helping things to make ourselves better. I'm not worried about my son, Patrick. I know he's going to be okay if he comes by. He even said, "Mom, what about me?" I'm like, "You're good. I know what to give you." We haven't been to the doctor except for well child checks for 8 years because we take care of our bodies. We took it upon ourselves because that's our job. It's not my job if the doctors aren't helping us because they don't know health and nutrition. I'm sorry. I know they mean well. They do, but they don't know health and nutrition because I probably, in the 8 years, have learned more about health and nutrition than they have. Because I've made it a part of my job. I educate my kids. I do everything I can to make them healthy. So now, if we have to put a mask on, I know for a fact it could probably give my son a heart attack. I know this sounds really drastic. Carbon dioxide all day long on a mask with a child who can't circulate oxygen very well because he has holes in his heart, not a good thing. And I'm scared to death of that. And I know that for me, I will probably damage my lungs later on by wearing a mask. So I will be doing everything in my power not to have to wear a mask, whether that does mean, unfortunately, leaving town to go shop somewhere else who doesn't need me to wear a mask to shop me to get my food. Because I refuse to spend 8 years for nothing. So I feel like we should treat us as adults. If you need to wear a mask, by golly gee, wear a mask. I don't care. It is your God-given choice to wear a mask. No one's telling you can't. But for those who really are taking it upon ourselves to take care of our bodies, I can walk around confident saying that we will be healthy and we will be fine, and I won't be passing it to someone else, or if I don't feel well, I will stay home so that I don't pass it on to someone else. But my children should not be wearing masks at school, and my family should not be wearing masks. And I just hope you respect that as well.
Thank you. And I will say in the ordinance, ma'am, there are exemptions for children or adults that cannot, for health reasons. And I would hope that people would allow that for you.
I hope so, but it seems like at Walmart, it's like, everywhere you go, it's like, you have to wear a mask, 100%. It's like,
I understand.
I just don't know if I can handle that.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Hello, thank you for your time this evening. Pardon me. My name is Jason Swart. I've been a resident here for several years. Went to preschool here, elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way through a 4-year degree at Fort Hays State University. You know, I love Hays. I'm proud of the community. I enjoy the community. Just quickly, I just have to voice my support and my grandmother's support. She's 75 years old. We live together. And I'm just, I voice my support for the mask mandate. And thank you, for considering the mandate. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Oh. Looks like this will be our last one.
Thank you all very much. My name is Carl Miller. I teach philosophy at the university. It seems to me there are two primary issues here. The first is about the science. And some people here have opposed the scientific view, but as far as I can tell, and I've done some research on this, the scientific consensus is pretty clear that masks work. They don't reduce it to 0 or 100%, but they do reduce the spread of droplets. You can do a simple experiment. Sneeze without a mask and sneeze with it, and you'll see a difference. This isn't a hard concept. The fact that it might come out of around your mask and go to your glasses, again, it doesn't reduce it to 100%, but it does reduce the spread of droplets in the air. This isn't hard to figure out. All the scientific bodies have come to the same conclusion. The people we pay to determine scientifically what's in the best interest, the Center for Disease Control, is clear. We should all be wearing masks. So it seems to me that issue is put to rest. The second one is about whether or not, given that it's safer and it will prevent transmission, should we do it anyway? And I've been listening, trying to figure out what are the arguments against it. Well, they seem to come down to inconvenience and the fact that it's just a right not to do it. So essentially, you're asking for the right not to be respectful of your citizens. You're asking for the right not to do something that we know will prevent the transmission or slow the transmission of the disease. Why would somebody want the right to do something that clearly will endanger lives? Why should we respect that desire? We have all kinds of rights or all kinds of legislation in place that protect citizens. Last thing, I am a conservative, so I'm a rare bird at the university. I'm not among the, most of my colleagues are far more liberal than I am. But it seems to me that what conservatives and liberals can agree on is that a central focus and purpose of government is protecting us from other people who would harm us, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally, right? We know that people without masks are endangering people because they will possibly spread the disease. 25 to 50% of people who have it don't know they have it. So they could be walking around for days spreading the disease, not knowing they're doing so. Innocent, completely innocent. But if we require them to wear masks, even if it's not convenient, even if they look silly, we will be preventing transmission at a small cost. It's not a big deal. And if you have a medical condition that requires you not to wear them, there are exceptions for that. Nobody's requiring people who can't breathe in a mask to wear a mask. What we're saying is a recent study, a meta-analysis found that if you require masks 95%, it'll reduce transmission by 30%. Thanks very much.
Appreciate
Thank you
it
very much.
Thank you.
Hey, can I, you said that's it, but I read it.
You're here, so please.
So with all due respect to everybody and their opinions, and everybody's so passionate, I get it. The thing is that we're talking about, I'm Elizabeth Schmeidler. So we're talking a lot about a virus, and we're talking a lot about a mask, but nobody's talking about freedom. Nobody's talking about, I'm 57. In all my years, people have died of all kinds of things. They've died of the flu. They've died of things that nobody even know what they did. But we didn't sit there and take account and say, oh, that family has flu all over. Oh my God, quarantine them. We said, oh, that's too bad. Let's get them some chicken soup. We realize that COVID is new. We realize this hit everybody out of the blue. But what you're not talking about is that people don't have a consensus on this. The doctors don't have a consensus on this. The CDC has changed its mind. They have admitted that 50% of the positive tests were wrong. They were not, this is out, you can find this anywhere. Every day I get on the news. I get on every news source, and they're telling us something different. Florida has false cases. Houston has false cases. There was an entire hospital set up in New York and all these places to take this overflow, and it never even happened. How am I supposed to know who to believe when a renowned surgeon, Stephen Gundry, said flat out on a video, the N95s that they wear for surgery don't even filter a virus. He said they filter at best bacteria. And he said they did a study where everybody who didn't mask down had less bacteria and less virus on them, less transmission. So when we sit here and talk about this is a general consensus of doctors, it's not true. There are people, there are scientists, there are researchers who are screaming at the top of their lungs that there is more to this than meets the eye. That we have people who are pushing a vaccine mandate. I'm going to say this till I draw my last breath. This is a 99% recovery rate, guys. 99%. I want to know how much SARS and MERS, both coronaviruses, nobody locked down, nobody wore masks. As he said, they weren't even suggested. I understand that masks are what make people feel better. I understand there's some spittle that's going to get stopped, but I'm going to ask you right now, if they worked so well, why are my loved ones, why are people's loved ones locked in a nursing home? If those masks work, then that lady who comes in to empty the trash in the mask, that lady who goes in there and gives them the food and takes their temperature, does that not work for them? Why can't their loved ones go in? This is all over the map. Does the virus go away when it gets to a bar? And did it just suddenly come into the church? The abortion clinics were being left open.
Time's up, man.
Liquor stores were left open. This is not about a mask, it's about freedom. And we're going to lose them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners.
You ready for
Yeah, I guess if we like to make a motion.
I move approval of ordinance number 3988, creating sections 20-1 through 20-5 of the Code of the City of Hayes pertaining to requiring the wearing of masks or other face coverings with the following amendments or revisions. Amend section 3A to read children of 6 years of age or younger. And the other is to amend section 6 to read the ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from 8 a.m. on Monday, July 27th, 2020 to midnight, August 31st, 2020.
July 27th. What? 1 second, I'm sorry.
Before, is there a motion? Can I make suggestions for amendments on this, or do we make suggestions for amendments?
City manager, please.
Toby Doherty, city manager. You would need a second to that motion. Now you can make,
Just to the amendments.
yes, you can. So she's making a motion with amendments. So you would need a second to that motion. If you would like to modify the amendments, you could suggest a modification as long as she agrees to amend her motion, and whoever agrees to amend their second, you can move forward like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I will second that. For sake of comment.
Can we, so if there's a second on the motion, can I motion then to make further amendments now?
Yes.
Yes.
And you could.
Or ask to amend
Ask me to
the
Ask her.
Ask her if she'll amend her amendments.
All right, speaking of the children, I would like to see that to the age 8 and under.
I don't object to that.
Children age 8.
8 and 8 under.
I'd like to see as much leniency for parents as possible.
So that
I have another suggestion for an amendment. I have a suggestion for an amendment that if the county were to put an ordinance into place, of some sort of mask ordinance in place, that our ordinance, if it were to pass, would immediately expire in default to the county, assuming the county's ordinance covers the city of Hayes.
The problem with that might be they might not go the same ages and the same duration.
Right.
Now,
They
to
may
me,
say
that's okay. That puts
if
the
they
ball
if
back
they
in their
say
court.
if they say age 2, that's the only.
Or they could
pitfall.
be the ones that, you know, we could put it in their hands if they feel like we need to loosen whatever exemptions we have. They could certainly do that too.
You can, John T. Bird, City Attorney, you can make it, you can put a contingency in, provided that if the county would pass its own, and theirs are resolutions, not ordinances. If they passed a resolution that did something contrary to this, that you would then revisit it. But I don't think you can delegate your legislative power to the county without having to revisit it. Do you understand what I'm saying, Commissioner? In other words, I don't think you can just give them the power to, in effect, veto what you're doing here. I think you can delegate back to yourselves the ability to revisit it, though. But I think it's an unlawful delegation of your own legislative power to give another governing body the ability to negate what you're doing here tonight.
And I'm perfectly okay with revisiting. I think we need to all be on the same page no matter what happens through this. I made my motion tonight based on my beliefs, and I will make some comments about it. But if there's something that happens in the future that the county wants to have conversations and wants to come back to the table on this, I'm absolutely open to that.
I would like to explain a little bit of what my thinking as far as allowing the county their diligence. They are the ones with the health director, and they are the ones that have said they're watching the numbers, and they are watching numbers to put in whatever ordinance they may or may not do. And we have to admit, well, we don't get those numbers, we're not. And so that's where, if those people have asked, that's kind of what some of the comments have been, is, well, what are you going to guide this on? And if the county's guiding it on numbers, then that's where my suggestion comes from, if they were to revisit the ordinance at some point to allow that to, but if you're advising as our
you can
attorney,
revisit. I'm not, I don't want to get into the policy side, but you can revisit it. And you can do it quickly, but I don't think you can just turn it, say that it will become null and void if they pass another resolution. I think you have to say that if they pass another resolution, that you would then change it as a body, and you'd have to then consider it. I mean, you can't prejudge it, I don't think, is what I'm saying. And Commissioner Jacobs makes a good, or somebody made a good statement. What if they, what if they said it was 2 years old, and it's something that was just anathema to your concept? So that's all I'm saying, Commissioner. I just think that it might lead somewhere that a member of the public would say, well, you've done something that you can't legally do at this point. So,
in my opinion, Commissioner Bird just says, if we pass this, to me, we own it. We're the ones that pass it. But I think working with the county, we definitely should. And if we pass this, I guess it shows that we have maybe a difference in opinion on how we deal with the coronavirus. But I think if they change what they're doing, we revisit it and maybe we change it. I'm 100% open to doing that. But we don't have a vote yet, so we'll.
If I could make just a couple of comments.
Please.
This has been really difficult for everybody that is facing this, and I think you all know that, and I have absolute empathy and compassion with everybody we heard from tonight. This was a very hard decision for me, and I had not made up my mind until Tuesday morning of this week, and I'll tell you where that came from. My son called me, which is it's a fun thing. He lives in Kansas City.
Sandy, can I jump in here?
Sure.
Are you willing to amend your
I am.
Accept his. Okay, that's the main thing, is you've got to amend your amendment to include his. Yeah, so that, you have your amendments and you've got his age amendments. So I just want to make sure that we were.
And then he's happily corrected.
As a point of order, if you are okay with his suggestion to 8, then he would have to amend his second to your motion. So.
Oh, he has to amend your second.
Or whoever seconded, I thought
Sean,
Martha seconded.
so you have to.
Yes, I'm okay with
Okay.
Okay, you have to, yes.
Yes.
Are we good?
Yes.
But
Okay.
Yes.
before you go too far, and maybe we can do this later, we did not set a date for it to end.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put it in, that August 31st.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
It'd be Monday morning, 8 a.m. till, what was, August 31st?
August 31st at midnight.
Thank you, I did not hear that, my bad. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, he called and he works in the medical community in Kansas City. And we were having a great conversation about this very issue. And he said, well, Mom, I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning. It was Dr. Dana Hawkinson. Dr. Hawkinson is the chief of infectious disease at KU. And he said, I have just 3 words for you to tell your mom. Ryan said, what are those? And he said, tell her just do it. He said, following that up, what I would like to say, he said, the argument can be that there's not much growth and things aren't growing really fast out there and things aren't happening really fast. And he said, I'm telling you that's an opportunity for masking. He said that in denser populations that did not do that are behind the 8 ball now. And he said he's familiar with Ellis County because, of course, our medical center is a KU facility. I truly believe, I listened to the CDC say that masking, if we put masks on for 6 weeks, we might have everything under control by the time the students are back. That was a very important statement to me. I also built a career in leadership standing on doing the right thing. When I hired people and they asked me what's the biggest thing I have to do, and every day I said you have to do the right thing. I'm believing my motion tonight was the right thing. In the case of this virus, I think there's a lot of right things, and this is just the newest right thing. This is the most recent right thing. It's the right thing right now. I think it's my job to go above and beyond to cause this to be a safe community, and I'm listening to all of you that say I need to listen to everybody in this community. I will tell you, I read every single email. I responded to every single email. I color-coded the emails as I put them together on paper so you could see the difference between who was in favor and who wasn't. I will tell you right now I'm 65% in favor and 35 against. I only got one thing, and I always have to bring this up because it really is the only thing in this job that really kind of makes me mad.
My wife told me I couldn't do that.
Oh, you couldn't? Well, my husband didn't tell me that. I got one letter, unsigned, anonymous. It's the only anonymous thing I got through this whole process, and boy, I'm proud of the citizens of this community for that. Every one of you signed your emails, you signed your texts, any other documents I got one. And whoever sent us, I think more than one commissioner got this. I think everybody did. I will just tell you, every one of us that gets anything anonymous, this is what happens. But I listened. I'm doing the very best I can for a community that I'm passionate about, that I love, that I want to see growth, and I want to stay safe, and I want our economy to thrive. I'll end it with the last email I got tonight, and I think we all got it. It was so simple, I had to sit and cry a little bit. She said, keep Hayes citizens safe. Help us feel we can go out and shop and do business here. Bring down our numbers so our kids can start school safely. Simple as that. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Commissioner Ritter, you have any comments?
Toby had a few questions on the actual enforcement of this. So I got a question from a business owner who asked, so for enforcement inside the business, so customers, members, anybody has to go in and wear a mask. If a person goes in there and does not wear a mask, is the fine on the business for not requiring it, or does the fine fall on the individual, or do both of them get ticketed?
It would be on the individual.
It'd be on the individual, not the business.
Right. The businesses have the ability to enforce the mandate, and they also have the ability to ask a person to leave, and if the person doesn't leave, then it becomes a trespassing matter. So businesses can do that now, but the responsibility is on the individual. Now, what I can say is we would have to look at the case if a business owner was blatantly ignoring and encouraging people to ignore the ordinance. We would have to look at the merits of that, because that could be then the action of the business. But as far as just somebody going in not wanting to wear a mask, that's on the individual.
The requirements for signing a business, are there any requirements for signing a business saying there has to be a sign on the door stating there's a local ordinance in place?
There are no requirements, but in anticipation of the possibility of the commission taking positive action on this, We have put together some templates for door signs. If the commission does pass the ordinance, we are going to have some signs printed up and make them available free to businesses if they would like to have them, or at least make the template available if they would like to print them and put them. But there is no requirement that they would have to have anything on their door.
Or additional cost to the business to take on any signage or enforcement of their own.
No.
Without blatant disregard.
Right.
Okay. This thing has been in the, how long have we been here, Mike? 6 months on the board? Yeah, I would have never thought we'd be sitting here discussing this. October, November last year, I was like, yeah, let's get up here, let's start growing our economy, let's get some housing, let's get some jobs, let's get the R9 ranch done, let's get all that. And here we are saying, hey, here's my science, here's your science. I'm not here to discuss the science behind masks. I will wear masks. I will respect businesses that require me to wear masks. These people are people in my community. If their corporations at the national level had required them, I will support these people because these are my friends, family, and neighbors, and they deserve their job. They're just trying to work and do what they need to do, so I will support them. But as an ordinance, I don't see an ordinance in this current draft as being enforceable. Yeah, you can stop people and I guess write them their $25 ticket or whatever it is, depending on whichever time they've been told. I don't like the idea of mandates and ordinances as an educational tool. I tend to believe that the people in Hayes who have contacted me have done research. I've been contacted by so many people who know that it's the right thing to do to protect you and your family and your citizens. So I think that decision is best left between the individual and their physician, and speak to your fellow citizens. Everybody who came up here and spoke tonight, I appreciate you taking the time and actually speaking. I wish our hall looked like this all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so nice to see people involved in your local government. It shows you actually care.
Yep.
Government doesn't start at Trump, Biden, and end there. It starts right here, down the street, right here on Main Street. And so it's nice to see everybody coming in here. But at this time, I think with what we have, we need to look at making sure that this isn't just done as a gesture. People need to realize social distancing, washing hands, wearing masks. You need to do all of these things together. You can't just do one and expect this virus to go away. You have to do all of them. This is not a pick and choose fashionable object. This is a mitigation measure, and mitigation measures are in place to mitigate risk. And I think that risk for mitigation is up to the organizations, which I think a majority of our organizations in this community have stepped up to the plate and done what they need to do to protect themselves and their customers and their employees. And it didn't take any of us up here to do that. I'm not a doctor. I spoke with my doctor. My doctor recommended if I'm going to be in large areas, I will wear my mask. If I can't social distance, I will wear my mask. I have one with me, and I have one in my car. I got one in my office. I usually have one on me. I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I just don't think the ordinance in its current state is anything that we can truly enforce to mitigate the risk. I appreciate all of you. I know this is a difficult decision for all of us, and I will respect the decision of the board, but know that I do not feel a mandate in this capacity is something that we should do. I think we should continue to educate, and I think it's up to the citizens of our great town to educate each other, be respectful of each other. It's time to come together, not to divide. We need to work together to get through this.
I respect that. Commissioner Burgess.
Well, I'll start off. I know many are going to just assume from what I've said in the past that my conclusion was foregone on what I would vote on an ordinance. And I have to ensure each and every one of you, whether you believe what I say or not, I did not come to a conclusion easily and not until just fairly recently. I made it a point to read every email. I'm not as quick as Sandy. I've not responded to every email, and I will respond to every email. I have responded to some, and we've had a good back and forth. I totaled up the total number of people that have reached out to me since last Thursday, all the way up until 5:30 when we got one more last email. And I'm adding in the individuals that came in this evening that I had not heard from as part of that total this evening too, because it does take some spirit and some gumption to come down and speak to the commission. Yes, it does. So adding those back in this evening, I have 121 individuals that have reached out to me with information and what they would ask me to do. I don't know what the science is either. I'm not going to speak to the science, because for every email I got that said, you know, I don't believe in mandates, I don't believe in the science of the masks work or don't work. I looked at the links, I followed where that led me. And then we got emails from the other side that said, here is the reason masks work and need to be in an ordinance, and they would have links to, and I'd follow those, and I can believe either one of them. I'm not overly concerned. I can't really speak to the shopping habits. I don't know what the shopping habits are. I'm not really over concerned of the shopping habits during a pandemic. So we get emails that, you know, yes, Adam Peters, I will say I tallied the 29 signatures that are in his email. They are part of my tally. This anonymous, kind of ominous letter, it is a part of my tally. I got emails from people that are outside of even our county. They're part of the tally too. And, you know, we'd get emails that they're not going to shop. If we put an ordinance in, and if you have to wear a mask, they're not going to shop. But I'd get emails from people that said if we don't put an ordinance in, they're not going to come and shop that way either. So I don't know. So I debated, you know, I can believe either of those arguments too. So the only good thing that's come out of this last week for me is I lost 10 pounds, because I weighed every argument, and I did not come to the conclusion easily, and waited till the last minute to get every last email. We got, again, one here at 5:30. But tallying those up, so how I came to my conclusion, how to believe, what to believe, who to believe, I decided the best way I know how to is to take the most democratic, representative approach I could. So I had tallied it, and again, I've added these in this evening. 121 people. Those that asked me to vote yes for the mandate is similar to what Sandy has experienced. It is 60% that have reached out to me individually to vote yes for the mandate. But I didn't know, and I didn't know if that was quite good enough, so I reached out to our 6 largest employers in 4 educational institutions within the city the last couple days. And I put it to them very simply, as a representative of the city and sitting on the commission as a community member on this commission, representing them and their business and their employees and their customers and their students. How would they have me vote on this ordinance? 86% of the respondents back to me said they would have me vote yes on an ordinance to represent them. So I look at those numbers, and it's not a small minority. I look at those numbers of 60% that reached out to me. It tells me that our community is asking for help. They're asking for guidance and to do all that we can to mitigate this virus. I am here to say the optimal level of this virus is 0. If we're not driving towards zero, and I believe the people that are telling me, yes, they want an ordinance, is that's what they're wanting. They're wanting us to find any way possible to drive it towards zero. The businesses that replied to me and said they would, they're asking for help. Many of them have their own mandates in place. And they're asking, help protect our employees. We need the community to come together at large, and so that way people understand that just going into the business, it's not just about our business, that business, my business. It is a community issue. And for the educational institutions that reached out to me and again said, yes, they would have me mandate, they are asking for help. They are asking for guidance and leadership and somebody to set the example for our children as we get ready to go back to school, as they're all going to be mandated within the education system to wear masks. And so, again, looking at what is being told to me to represent, that's the conclusion I came to. I know for many it's going to look like I had this foregone conclusion, but I drilled it down to what the numbers are telling me, and I will vote yes for the ordinance.
Well, I concur with everything my fellow commissioners have said, and with Mason, I agree with him. The enforcement is going to be the key thing, but I think city staff has worked with PD, and it's going to be mostly education, unless somebody is blatantly ignoring it. But I'm kind of an old guy, and I keep hearing this, flatten the curve, behind the curve, ahead of a curve. When I grew up, the only curve we had to worry about was Dead Man's Curve, and we all knew that how we could take care of that was just by slowing down. Well, I don't think we can slow down on this. I look at this a lot like pain management. Whenever you are in extreme pain, the doctor wants you to get ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. They want to do the minimum that they can. And that's the way I look at this, is we want to start out with face masks. We don't want to go back to closing, having businesses closed down, wrecking, the economy. So I want to stay ahead of the curve. I've had people that have contacted me, and they're upset because they've been quarantined. Not necessarily because of something they did, but a family member was exposed, and then they're exposed. And, we have people that have lost their livelihood. We've had others that have lost their health, and we have some with both. These people that say, we didn't even have COVID. I've been out of work for 2 weeks. We're having a heck of a time trying to make ends meet, buy groceries, pay our bills, and I haven't even had it yet. What's going to happen if we are quarantined again, or if I do get the COVID virus? So I want to be ahead of the curve rather than behind the curve. And this ordinance is only for 5 weeks. This is not a lifetime mandate. So with that, I'm where I'm leaning to vote yes on this.
I just had one little thing I wanted to add. I'm so respectful, and I say this all the time of you guys. I hope you start believing it at some point. I am so respectful of each and every one of you and the differences in our opinion and how we come to conclusions. And then we agree to disagree, and that's okay. That's what we were elected to do. But one little bit of data that I wanted to share that in my emotional statement earlier I missed had to do with a study that Grow Hayes actually shared about 6 or 8 months ago. I think it was a WSU study on demographics, age. I think it mostly was age and something else. It's not important. Pulled the data back out, and at this point in time in our community, 26.32% of our community is over the age of 55. Over the age of 55 is declared as a vulnerable part of our population. I think along with talking about the vulnerability, we also talked with Grow Hayes and Mr. Williams about the value of retirees and the community over 55 years of age. And that study actually determined that was the biggest opportunity demographic that we had in our community right now, with the retirees and the people over 55. I think it's time to take care of our neighbor and love thy neighbor. Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I'll make one last just comment to point this out. Within the ordinance, there are 10 labeled exemptions. So I do encourage those that meet the exemptions, and I think it's going to be 40% of the community because of health reasons, because of work requirements, because of those. Please look at the exemptions first before firing off that it's a blanket mask ordinance for everybody, because there are plenty. My children will certainly find exemptions within there. So,
and from my understanding, the school district will have exemption for kids, is what I was told. So, yeah. Commissioners, I respect everything you guys had to say. What was it, a week or so ago, I held this thing up and I said, I don't know what this does for us. I didn't. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even going to try. To be honest with you, science was probably my worst class when I was in school. I reached out to a science friend, former teacher that taught me many years ago, and she gave me a lot of information. And I'll be honest, the information she gave me was completely opposite of the information that we were sent from many other people, as we all got. But I respect her because she's been in the business for a lot of years, and it's just somebody that I respect. So when you respect people, you listen a little bit more. But that being said, we all received a lot of emails, and I think Mason, I emailed you the other night that I was 7 years here, nothing close to this. I mean, there was other times. I remember my first time. I think I was in favor of fireworks, and I thought that was bad. Whew. And I'll never forget. I think when I signed up to run, when Barb went to the county, Barb Washington, Representative Washington, and she asked me some questions, and she said, "Boy, you're going to have to get a lot tougher." Well, I think we got a lot tougher this week, guys. I mean, this was tough. But this is what we're elected to do. And boys and girls, sorry. Didn't mean to exclude you. So, but I read all your emails, and I respect your emails. I don't delete emails because you disagree with me. I do read your emails, and I will always read your emails. And I apologize. When you run a business, sometimes it's really hard to have time to respond to all of you, but if I haven't, I promise you I will. So I wanted to read something, and I've been kind of going back and forth, but it's something that kind of, I would say Monday, I think Toby, I met with you Monday, I was probably an absolute no vote. And then, I always said with the coronavirus, until you were personally affected by it, it's hard to know how bad it really is. Or, in my opinion, that's how it was. So, if you bear with me, I had a neighbor. They both have COVID right now. They have 2 little kids. So she texted me this because I knew I'd screwed up. So we had a family member from out of town come up to stay for a few days. The family member had no signs or symptoms. She stayed 2 nights, 3 days. The morning she left, she felt like allergies or something was acting up. She drove straight to Manhattan to help 2 other family members move. When she got to Manhattan, she decided out of precaution to wear her mask while they packed, loaded. When she got home that night, she was running a low fever. The next day, I woke up with my first symptoms, which again felt like allergies or sinus pressure. Thought little of it. We went to some friend's house that evening. Out-of-town guests, my husband and I and our friends we visited all ended up testing positive for COVID. The problem is you're contagious and you have no idea. Do masks work? ? They sure seem to in this case, and no one visited in Manhattan tested positive or had any symptoms because they had masks. That's one case, and that's one person's opinion. But it kind of hit home because, they're friends of ours. They live across the street, and I can't imagine if my wife and I came down, how we would handle our kids. What would we do? As Jason said, you need to be away from them. Well, how do you do that? And last week I had a minor procedure. Hayes Med, you were great, and I appreciate it. But I had to get COVID tested. I was scared to death, none of the procedure, of testing positive for COVID because I own a very small business. I'm around every single one of my employees daily, almost daily. And if I tested positive, we'd have to shut down for a minimum 2 weeks. And and it's not all about me. It's not all about business. It's about this whole community. And for me, where
really got under my skin this week, and one that I went back and forth, should I say it or not, but we were called Hitler, we were called spineless, afraid to make a decision. We were called stupid by a former city manager of this great city of Hayes. And I'm sorry, sir, I lost all respect for you for using those kind of words. I mean, I respect his opinion, but to use that kind of language when we are all doing our best, and there's no way we're all going to be perfect and we're going to make mistakes up here, but we are doing our best for our community. We love this community, every single one of us up here. And I got 3 kids, and I want them to be in school. I want them to be safe. My wife teaches at Fort Hays State University. I'm very proud of what she does, and I want her to be safe. Can I guarantee she's going to be safe? No, I can't. But I'm going to do everything in my power to make my community proud and not be sick. And I know they said, well, you know, I've had friends that own small businesses. They 100% disagree with me. They said, you're going to kill my business. I hope they're wrong. I have no idea if I'm wrong or they're right. But I want to do everything I can. I do not want to be shut down. I've seen Main Street when it was shut down. It was like a ghost town. And if this helps, no guarantee it will, I'll be so proud that we slowed it down. I don't think we're getting rid of coronavirus for what we're doing tonight, but I really believe if we pass this, that we will slow the spread. I've heard from doctors that we haven't even seen the worst. I hope they're wrong, but I trust them. Maybe this will help. And I believe, I know lately, and we haven't mandated, we wear as a staff, my business, 80-90% of the people are wearing them, and I haven't told anybody to wear a mask. It's out of respect, you know, and I go to Walmart Dillon's probably 3 or 4 times a week for my store, and I see people all the time, you know, and what gets me, though, is when people, whether you agree with masks or you disagree with masks, you go on Facebook or other places, and they defame people for disagreeing with them, whether they wear a mask or wear not a mask. Why can't we be adults about it? It's your choice. And I know some people say, well, we're not giving you a choice if we enact this. But, you know, people, I remember 9/11. That was, for my lifetime, that was the scariest thing that ever happened. I was just blown away. I never seen this country come together more than we did for 9/11. And I was so proud of our country. I was so proud to turn on the news and see all the positive. And I can 100% tell you since mid-March, I've watched 20 minutes of national news. I don't care anymore. I can't control the national news. But I know our media here, what we say, they report. And I appreciate what you guys do. I know some may not, but I respect when I say something stupid in here, you're going to put it in the paper. And you know what? That's your right. And I appreciate that because that's your right. And I just thank you guys. And I've had people say, well, you're just making this political. This is 100% not political for me. 100% not political for me. I think there's some people in this town have made this big time political, and I just don't think that's the way to go about it. And, you know, for the people that said they're going to shop out of town, other grocery stores, well, I will tell you, I know Jeff that runs the Ellis grocery store, Kim that runs the Plainville grocery store, Dave and John at on the Russell grocery store. Those are super people, and I promise you they will take care of you well there. And I consider those small towns part of the Hayes community because those people work in this town, they shop in this town, and I believe they will come back to this town. So I know that was my rant, and I apologize. I try not to rant when I'm up here, but this is a hot subject, and I know people are going to be mad at us tomorrow, but I will promise you guys every single one of us did our homework, and we feel like we're doing the best for our community. No matter what the vote is, I will respect what happens tonight. Are we ready for a vote? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Passes 4-1. Okay.
Now, all these nice people don't have to stay in.
Yeah, you guys can go home. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
I would like to take a 5-minute break if we could.
I was going to say, if I had to make a motion to take a
We had-
break, I would.
Is that what we need to do?
We need
Make
a
a
motion
motion?
for a 5-minute break.
5-minute break?
I motion
I second.
for a 5-minute break.
All in favor of a 5-minute break, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. I think it passes 5-0. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you got
Thank you for coming and staying through the whole thing.
your own little micro.
Neil, you hard
Yeah,
up
your
for
own little
entertainment
microcosm.
tonight?
You're taking really good care of, and I appreciate it.
Hard up for entertainment, aren't you?
Thank you.
Hard up for entertainment.
Break.
We're glad you're here.
Commissioner, back to order. Are you ready? Sorry. Okay. Back to order. Where are we at? All right.
Where are we at?
Next item, some exciting stuff. Arc Park request for Seven Hills Playground installation. Welcome.
Hello. The crowd dispersed, so I'm offended. No, I'm kidding.
You know how to clear a room out.
Right? I did. My name is Sarah Meitner, and I'm the board president with the ARC of Central Plains. And with me is Kathy McAdoo, the executive director at the ARC. And next to her is Brent Kaiser. He's our activities director and runs our Special Olympics programming. We are here today to give you an update about the Accessible Recreation Complex and request permission from the city to proceed. First, I'll give you just some brief background about the ARC Park, and then I'll update you about the phases we've outlined, the current design, price, and timeline, and provide you with our current fundraising total. Okay, briefly, as you know, the Accessible Recreation Complex, or as we call it, the ARC Park, was an idea conceived 2 years ago. The complex will eventually include a fully accessible playground, splash pad and baseball field so that people of all abilities and ages can play safely and without barriers. Access to safe play space will give people with disabilities the opportunity to play in a way that they haven't been able to in our community. The ARC Park will encourage healthier behaviors, enhance individual self-empowerment, and provide a more welcoming and inclusive community. That kind of authentic inclusion will pave the way to an enriched quality of life for our entire city, and with time can lead to more inclusive opportunities for people with disabilities in classrooms, in workplaces, and in living options. We also anticipate the ARC Park to have an economic impact, drawing visitors from outside of Hayes and to provide a pit stop oasis for the special needs families who pass by on I-70. As you can see in the image of Seven Hills Park at 33rd and Hillcrest, we have divided the complex into 3 phases to allow us to more quickly build while still fundraising. So phase 1 in red is the ARC Park Playground, our showpiece. It's 15,500 square feet. In blue is the parking lot with 43 stalls and a drop-off area, as well as the splash pad. And in phase 3 in green, it's the accessible baseball field. This 2D image and color rendering gives you a closer look at the design. We have done extensive research about park equipment and accessible guidelines. In doing that homework, we have visited more than a dozen parks and to look at how the equipment feels up close, how it wears, how it ages with time, and also how it appeals to kids, because we want a park that's just also really cool. We selected equipment manufactured by Landscape Structures because of its durability and ingenuity. AFCO in Lenexa is the regional builder for Landscape Structures, and it has also previously collaborated with the City of Hayes. The price for phase 1 is $774,614, and that includes all equipment, installation, freight, concrete, the flooring, the pour-in-place flooring, the turf flooring, etc., with AFCO leading as our general contractor. It also reflects more than 12,000 plus of in-kind dirt work from Ellis County, as well as 15,000 plus of in-kind work and turf installation from Forever Lawn Mile High. To get to this total, we did also collaborate with Jeff Boyle in the City Parks Department. Jeff made shade structure, fencing, and sidewalk suggestions and other small tweaks so that we could best make use of city maintenance funds going forward. He also calculated a fiscal note for Seven Hills Park, a new fiscal note. That annual maintenance estimate of $1,114 includes trash removal, mowing, equipment inspection, and so on. He also factored some one-time cost of about $3,000 for grass seed and a temporary irrigation so that we can plant new grass on the berms that will surround the park. We do have an offer for some in-kind toward, possibly to be used toward grass seed, so we hope to chip away at that number just a little bit. I am out of order. Hold on just a moment. Okay. With city approval, we'd like to order equipment immediately. AFCO is reporting a 12-week delivery date, which is a sizable delay compared to normal due to COVID. Even so, we could begin dirt work and site prep, maybe the end of September, the early part of October, as well as construction of the equipment and installation of the concrete and turf installation after that, so into October and November. The bad news is that the weather will likely push the final construction plans until spring. The pour-in-place flooring is a large undertaking and will necessitate outside temperatures to be above 40 degrees, even overnight, for up to a week. So unless we have an unseasonably warm November, that part of the installation can't occur until April at the soonest, most likely. We will owe ASCO and our subcontractors periodically as the work is completed. So, for example, our first payment will be for equipment, and it will be due in November. The final payment for the final flooring installation will not be due until May of 2021. I have some fun photos for you. Before I share our fundraising total with you, I first wanted to share a few photos. We've received funds from more than 750 donors, including businesses, organizations, individuals, and children. And just look at some of the local kids who have shown their support for the ARC Park. We have scout troops and the schools and family support groups, et cetera. And, you know, we've been amazed constantly by the community outpouring for this park, and especially from our youngest citizens in town. Just this month, we challenged kids in Hayes to have a lemonade stand and donate their earnings to the ARC Park. We had 104 children participate at 14 stands in town. Those kids raised $23,098 in 4 days. They did amazing. That worked out to be about $222 per participant. Incredible, which is incredible. You know what? It was hard to find lemonade in town because I had to stand and I couldn't find it.
It's not fair when you're going home, these little kids are out there. I mean,
Right. Altogether, we have raised $672,860 in just under 2 years. That equates to about $32 per resident of Hayes. Our cash in bank includes outstanding pledges. Including those outstanding pledges is $626,168. We have spent some money raised so far for site survey, landscape architect fees, and marketing. We also have 3 outstanding grants that total $80,000, and we will soon be beginning the fall grant cycle, so hope to continue to still apply for grants. We feel, though, that in spite of all of this success, that we are at a fundraising crossroads. The community has entrusted us with so much money already, it's really hard to ask them to dig deeper without showing them some action. That is why today we are here to request permission to go ahead and proceed with construction of Phase 1. We also have had interest from prospective partners. The new Hilton and Convention Center, for example, has reached out to us. They would like to include the ARC Park and the promotional materials they give new visitors. We also have heard from the Hayes Public Library. They have expressed interest in having their new bookmobile out at the park for regular story times. You know, we really sense the community's enthusiasm for this project, and we're feeling like the time is now to go ahead and continue. Last page. In closing, we are here today to seek permission and support from the City Commission to order equipment and proceed with construction of Phase 1 of the ARC Park. One last thing. This coming Sunday, our country marks the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. That law prohibited discrimination against people with disabilities and ensured that they had better access to facilities, transportation, and employment opportunities. It's fitting to me that you all approve this phase and that we proceed with construction so close to this milestone celebration. The legacy of ADA and improving the quality of life for people with disabilities will live on in Hayes, America. Are there any questions?
Let me start. Last week I didn't make any comments, but before we get too deep into it, I'm going to disclose for the public record, I serve as the treasurer of the ARC of Central Plains. I have consulted with our city attorney, John Bird, and it is unclear whether I have a conflict of interest, and so to not jeopardize anything, and because it's unclear at this time, I'm going to recuse myself from comments and voting this evening.
Thank you.
I respect that. I'm going to make a couple of the same comments I did last week. I'm totally in favor of this project. I think it's going to be a huge asset in our community. I'm very proud of all the work that's been done on this. I am very hesitant to approve starting on this without knowing that you can finish it. This phase one. We've had some situations in the past that's made it difficult. So what I'd like to do is, as I said last week, I would like to commit up to $100,000 of city money to finish phase one if you get to that point and you don't have that money. I had them kind of laugh at me when I said that I was considering this because they said, oh, we'll get there. They've also committed their own operational funds, which always disturbs me just a little bit to have to go to that area. I understand their need to get started. I understand the community wants to come and cheer you on as the shovel gets turned. But I think that kind of commitment from the city not only allows me to say, let's get started, but it also shows support like the other, how many people? 754 people that have given you support through this project. So I don't know how to do that. I don't know the protocol. As I said last week, I just know it's something I would like to have us do if at all possible.
I'm in favor of that, but I don't know the protocol.
I think if you would just state that as a motion.
Okay.
And then somebody second it, then you can take separate action on that, and then you would still have to take action on that.
Okay, I'd like to move that the City of Hayes take on a commitment of up to $100,000 to finish phase one of the Arc Park using the numbers presented tonight, $774,100 and some dollars, if somebody can pull that number together for me. Again, up to that amount.
And I did just realize that I missed a page in my whole presentation. So I don't know if I should go back and add that. Okay, because it's kind of talking about the agreement that we have had with the city attorney that we, the Arc of Central Plains, would be liable for any funds that are not raised and that the city would be held harmless in that endeavor. So I apologize for
that's
that
right.
this
That's
time
okay.
around, but you guys all
okay.
did
It hasn't
already know
changed.
that.
That's very
Not
important.
changed my
That's very-
motion.
Okay.
So up to that, can you go back to that?
Oh, sorry.
$100,000 to get to that number.
Okay.
We're last in.
Last in, yes.
Right. Motion, do we have a second? I will second that. I think we need to be part of it. It's definitely, it shows that our community wants this to happen, and I hope we will be part of this and show that we acknowledge that the community is part of it, and I want to get this going forward if the commission agrees. Any other comments?
My lack of a second wasn't meant as a dig on the ARC. I think it's going to be a great addition to the city of Hayes. Speaking last week, Ron brought up some good points. I'm just one of those people. I'd like to see some concrete numbers of what's left, what we're gonna do. Just with everything going on with COVID, like you brought up last week, I want to make sure that we can continue to provide all the services that we need to do as a city, and then be involved in this in any way we can after we've secured ourselves.
I think we've seen some promising numbers in that area tonight in the last couple of months with what we anticipated in our sales tax numbers versus what actually came out. Yep. It wasn't shared tonight, but in the months of March and April, we planned on 100,000 plus down from last year in sales tax collection. It was only 20,000 and 30,000. The exciting piece for the month just reporting now is we are actually $33,000 ahead of where we were last year at sales tax. I understand exactly what you're saying, commissioners. I think that we watch every dollar very well. I just am not ready. I'm hesitant to approve it when we don't know the dollars are there to get done. And if we commit those dollars, then I know it's there.
Like I said last week, I said I'm still worried about this COVID thing, what it's going to do to our finances. We don't know if there's hopefully with this mask thing it's going to help us, but we don't know nationally what it's going to do for us. And I wouldn't want to commit to this. They've already committed to this. They know what they're doing. I would want for us to look at it at our retreat so that we know all of a sudden we've just pulled $100,000 out. We always operate on a plan. Mm-hmm. And once we have this plan together in our commission, we will look at all of this at Commission Retreat. We'll look at all of this, and we'll see if we are able to do this. Because anytime we take $100,000, then it's going to be something else that we don't do. So I'm supportive of this, but I want us to take care of our finances first. And we have to, because we have so many, not just this entity, we have so many entities that, depend on us. So I will be voting no on the $100,000, yes on them moving ahead with phase 1. So
I respect that, and I think I agree with you. I think maybe we should wait till after the retreat, which is only a few weeks away, and then maybe end of August, September, we bring this back up and see if it's something we feel that's worth doing. I mean, it's something any of us can bring up and stuff.
There's nothing saying we can't do it. It's
Right.
just, I think it'd be
we gotta
something
have
we can look into.
Everything should be in order, and I 100% respect that. And honestly, Commissioner Knopf, I know I second it, but I think I will agree with those guys. But I do, and I can bring it up later. I want to be part of this, and I think after the retreat, I would love to bring this, back up once we know concrete, where the money's going to come from.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm really respectful of that decision, and I have no argument with any of that. And I guess I'm not going to argue quite as hard because they do have the money in the bank that they need.
We know that our final payment is not going to be due until May of next year, and we have the cash in the bank now to pay those first few invoices that come in. And we have a lot of fundraising efforts still in mind. A new one may involve some of you, so be ready for that phone call soon. But we still have, like I said, we have $80,000 worth of grants that are outstanding, and if those all come to fruition, or if we have a successful fourth quarter, we intend to close that gap. Our intention all along was to gift this to the city and to not take money or not feel like we didn't want to set a precedence of having organizations coming and waiting for the commission to come in and swoop in and save the day. We're really proud of the work that we've done, and we're willing to stake our organization on it, knowing that we have a lot of more fundraising still to do. And I completely respect the dialogue and even the willingness to discuss it at your August retreat and to consider us and to also consider the splash pad, because that's coming right down the line as well. But at this time, Sarah. we really just want the green light so that we can call up and order equipment and get the show on the road.
Well, let's do the vote on the first motion. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion of the $100,000 is what the first motion was. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Nay. Fails 1-3. And then we will need a motion for.
I move we approve the agreement between the City of Hayes and the Arc of Central Plains in regard to development of the Arc Park and authorize construction of Phase 1 of the Arc Park.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I say let's get her going.
Go get them.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0. I think I may have said that wrong last time. I think it was 1-3. 1-3 was the vote on the 100,000.
You said it right.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. My brain's dead.
Maybe you
tonight.
need to be in the dunk tank.
After tonight, I may need to be.
Let's do that before we change the mayoral role in this community.
So, Roger Bixman, would you mind coming up here, please? I know you weren't expecting this.
Can I stand up and clap?
You can. You can do whatever you want, actually.
Commissioners, tomorrow's headline should really be about the Arc.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it should.
Absolutely.
Did you hear that?
We're looking for that.
So, Mr. Bixon, I was just, earlier today we were pointing out that the Hayes Rec Board decided to, give more money towards the pool, your side from $26,000 to $40,000. Am I saying that correct? I just want to say thank you, guys. Thank you for the partnership. It's been a very trying year. We're one of the few communities in Kansas that had their pool open. None of us knew, but we were excited to have it open, and just thank you. Thank you guys for everything you do, and just having something for the kids to do this year. They needed it. So.
And that lets us stay open longer than we would have.
Yep, I appreciate that. And we are open till August 9th, so 2 weeks from this Sunday. And our attendance is down, but it's only down by maybe 75 to 100 per day. We're still averaging about 550, and projections are we'll have about 14,000 people come through July, so the month of July. So it's a place to go, and it's a place for the kids to go and their parents to go. So we appreciate you allowing us to do that.
Kids, if you're listening, go to the pool tomorrow.
Yeah.
My grandkids will come from eastern Kansas.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it
Roger.
very
Thank
much.
you very much, Roger.
Thank you, guys.
Pass
Congrats.
that on to your board.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Ark. Appreciate
All right.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Usually the most important thing tonight, well, maybe not the most important. Next item on the agenda, 2020 Budget Stabilization Transfer. Mr. Rupp.
Thank you, Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. City of Hayes Comprehensive Financial Management Policy requires that 25% of general fund operating expenditures be maintained in the Budget Stabilization Reserve Fund. While no funds have been expended from the budget stabilization since its inception, a slow increase in operating expenditures over the last 15 years makes it necessary to subsidize the fund to bring it back into compliance with the policy. This transfer can be accomplished by lowering the 2020 budgeted transfer to Commission capital reserves. In 2004, the residents of the City of Hayes voted to replace the mill levy in the general fund with a 3/4 cent sales tax. So from January 1 of 2005 to December 31st of 2005, the additional 3/4 cent sales tax was collected to establish the budget stabilization for the general fund. Therefore, during that year, both the new sales tax and ad valorem were collected to replace the mill levy. As a reference, local sales tax budget for 2020 is equivalent to 32.6 mils. Then the creation of the comprehensive financial management policy ensured the budget stabilization would remain funded and also directed its usage going forward. We felt it appropriate to review a little about that financial management policy in regard to budget stabilization. Policy requires the city achieve and maintain a minimum budget stabilization reserve of 25% of the general fund's annual operating budget to be used for budget stabilization. The reserve is to be maintained to provide the city with sufficient working capital and a comfortable margin of safety to address emergencies, withstand local and regional economic shocks, and unexpected declines in revenue without borrowing. The reserve is to be used only to cover emergencies and unexpected declines in revenue. If the reserve is used, the city will decrease its general fund expenditures to prevent using the reserve in 2 consecutive fiscal years to subsidize general fund operations. The reserve can only be appropriated by resolution of the City Commission. In the event the reserve is used to provide for temporary funding of unforeseen emergency needs, the city is to restore the reserve to that 25% within 2 fiscal years following the fiscal year in which the event occurred. This is an accounting of that 25% requirement. When we consider the 2020 general fund operating expenditures of $12.5 million, we see that the required transfer is right at $116,000. Given this transfer requires commission action, we felt it prudent to ask for a transfer of $250,000 to allow for future growth in general fund operating expenditures. It's intended that this transfer can come from the budgeted transfer to Commission capital reserve scheduled for the end of the year. This would leave the Commission capital reserve transfer at $469,000. These transfers will only be completed at the end of the year after we've had all revenue expenditures accounted for. So tonight, your options would be to approve the transfer, do nothing, or provide us with other direction, and this is our action requested.
I move to direct the city manager to transfer $250,000 onto the budget stabilization reserve to be funded from the 2020 budgeted Commission capital reserve transfer.
Seconded.
Motion second. Any comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. Back when this passed in 2004, this was a pretty hot topic at that time, also like tonight's. And yes, was passed by the citizens, and all the naysayers said that this would never work. We'd never be able to keep the mill levy. They guaranteed it for 10 years, and here we are, it's 16 years later. So I think the commissions over the years have worked very hard to prove the naysayers wrong, and we are in a good financial situation because of this, and we need to make sure that we do our part to keep this mill levy where it's at, so.
And thank you for keeping us informed on all this all the time, Kim. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda, 2021 budget review, scheduling a public hearing for 2021 budget.
So just before we do that budget review with Toby and then set the hearing, I did want to go through the sales tax. We held it till now because of everything else going on early on in the meeting. So if you get your sheet out, that was at your place, sales tax chart. I just wanted to quickly say we just got these numbers today. This is hot off the press, and we had projected to be down 25% in sales tax for July. We ended up being up 5% for July, so it was a big surprise. So year to date, we're at 3.2. We're to the positive 33,000 for the month. So that's really good news when you consider the collections of May, the receipts for May, June, July, which is collections for March, April, May. That's a $438,000 turnaround. So we're pretty excited about that. The other item that's at your seat that is not three-hole punched is the new version of the budget hearing notice that we will publish tomorrow. So this has in it the changes that you discussed last week, and it has in it the new projections for sales tax that we just received. It also has in it new projections for the CVB transient guest tax. Those were also up a little. So we made those changes. So this would be the new, what you have in your packet didn't have that in there, so this one will be the new. And then the other items in tan that are hole punch that you can put in your budget book is, after we went through and made all those changes, these are the pages that have to be edited. And so Toby will stand for questions on the budget before you schedule the hearing.
So on this first sheet on the summary, how much did it increase or?
So we really had an increase in revenue because we went up about 70,000 in that projection, and then we instituted the, I believe it was 12,500 increase for the grow hays to bring them to 100, and then it was 2,600 or so over in the CVB budget for the DHDC increase. Is there anything else I'm missing? I don't think so. I think that was it. And then the sales tax revenue and the CVB revenue.
Okay. Thank you.
And so the city commissioners reviewed the budget a couple times, and if you have any further questions about the budget, I'm here to answer them. If not, then we would ask you to pass the action requested. Yes, sir.
So budget's balanced, awesome. 25 mills, how many straight years have we had a balanced budget?
So beginning in 2006, when the mill levy went to 25, or 2005, when the mill levy went to 25, there was 1 year, I believe it was 8 or 9, when the city commission had a lot of projects in our capital improvement plan, that there was talk of an escalating increase in the mill levy. To accommodate those, it went from 25 to 26, and then the commission decided, we don't want to do that. We want to stick it at 25. They went back the next year, and it's been at 25 ever since. So essentially 1 year it went from 25 to 26 and then right back to 25, but it's been 25 essentially.
I think that was 2008.
Was that 2008? I know it was very early on.
I think it was 2008.
So
yeah.
12 years we've had a balanced budget.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
in a row.
Budget.
Yeah, actually the balanced budget, obviously since 2005, but before that, I think since 2002 we've had a better than balanced budget where we're putting money away in reserves, and since 2005 your mill levy has been at 25, except for that 1 year it went to 26 and then back.
Okay. I just think that should be duly noted. So.
I move we set a public hearing date of August 13th, 2020 for the 2021 budget.
Seconded.
Second?
Quick question, yeah. Procedure-wise, I guess, and it being our first go-around through budget, so setting the hearing, but I'm still kind of digesting the budget and looking at things and maybe potentially offering, just say, maybe looking at cutting some areas. We're still able to do that up until.
We just can't go up.
Yes, you just can't go up. You can't publish a hearing saying we're going to spend X amount of dollars in each fund and then increase that at the meeting where you adopt it. You can go down, you can modify, you can reallocate changes within the budget all you want. Even up until the day you adopt it, you can make changes. So the way it typically works is we would have another work session then in August, the first work session in August, where the commission can suggest changes to the budget. And then at the first meeting in August, the assistant manager will do a presentation for the people at home that haven't been looking at the budget workbook, just to point out what's in the budget. And then the city commission can still ask for modifications as long as it doesn't increase any total funds expenditure.
Thank you for the clarification.
We had a motion second. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. We got progress. Yes. I thought everybody'd stay around for you.
You're the new guy, right?
Still in. Colin Belzer, Assistant City Manager.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Progress report. Service Division crews closed portions of Fort for approximately 1 week to do some repairs to areas of brick and curb. Obviously, you can see the before and after. And then this photo also shows it from a different angle, and you can see where they also did concrete work on the far right of the right photo. They also repaired some concrete at 27th and Willow, where 53 yards of concrete were used to fix that failing concrete, as you can see. 41st and General Hayes, they replaced some curb and gutter and an ADA ramp with 7 yards of concrete. 7th and Oak, they also did a lot of concrete work, as you can tell, this last month. 11 yards were moved here to remove and replace a section at that area.
That one is beautiful. I appreciate it.
With the Parks Department, so the Parks Department does inspect playgrounds monthly. We have 2 certified inspectors on staff, and they recently completed some repairs at Massey Park and Dan Rupp Park. They've also been removing some tree stumps in parks and backfilling them. This is a picture at Bickle Park. 41st and Hall Street, they backfilled, seeded, and installed erosion barrier along the south edge of the new sidewalk, and you can see that right there. Round top post insulation, so something they've been doing is trying to improve the areas in Frontier Park where people might go off the road a bit. So here they are installing a few round top posts in areas impacted by vehicle traffic. These are kind of some old photos. You can see at the top left ones of each section are kind of during the winter, so it's more not as green, but you can see where the grass and people are driving, and then in the newer photos you can see grass actually starting to show up. Bagworm treatment and prevention, it seems like they're always spraying the trees. Now they're doing it for bagworms. You can see the photo on the right shows kind of what they look like, and this is a photograph at the shelter belt along the south edge of the tree nursery. The IT department updated the polling maps. Obviously, we have a big election coming up, so they updated this with current information including boundary or road name changes, and this can be found online at hayesusa.com. Police department did a refresher of standard field sobriety testing, which also include mock practice with one another. Hopefully no one ever has to do that.
Did they take turns drinking?
I hope not. The Water Resources Department, they provided a grant to K-State to enhance some signage in the demonstration garden along Main Street with our new logo, you can see. 33rd and Vine Street, the Water Resources. So this was part of the North Vine project. The Water Resources Department actually helped on that project by rerouting a water line around an inlet box that was going to go in. So they did 2 45-degree angles to try to go around that. And here's another photo that kind of shows how they had to angle it. Used to go straight, now it goes around a little object. The CVB have been working with local vendors to secure yard signs and decals to promote social distancing. Decals were used on 4th of July parade route, and they were also used in the downtown pavilion. You might have seen some of the yard signs at the Wild West Festival concert or at the Hayes Aquatic Park and Bickle Schmidt Sports Complex. They also created a kids activity sheet to promote Sternberg Museum and distributed to local restaurants. As soon as my 22-month-old stops trying to eat the crowns, I think he'll enjoy that.
I've been practicing every day on being better.
They also created recently an order to go in Hayes flyer to tournament attendees at the Bickle Schmidt Sports Complex. We're encouraging patrons to order online, pick up. We also included a link to reserve shelters in the park and shared that via email to attendees and on social media. The airport did some remodel in the terminal. As you can see on the left, that was the old way where it was very open for the assistant out there, the administrative assistant. So that's closed in now, a little more secure, private office space. And then Hertz did move over to their side. So Hertz is still there. It's just not in that same location. Circle C Paving completed some seal coating in several parts for about $174,000. Asphalt streets are typically sealed every 5 to 6 years, and this was part of our annual street maintenance program, primarily in Thunderbird area and then residential areas between Vine and Canterbury. Mopar Drive reconstruction, this was recently completed and should be open, not now, pretty soon. It was about $82,000 to lay that concrete, and it was completed July 17th. Canal Street rehab, this is a big project that is replacing approximately the east two-thirds of the pavement on Canal from 23rd to 27th. It's part of our street maintenance program, and it was a cost of $343,000. General Custer, we've removed that failing asphalt, and we're repouring it with nice new concrete. That would be about a $134,000 project. And then North Vine continues to progress. As you know, most of the northbound lane is complete and traffic is one-way northbound on the new pavement, which you can see on the photo, both photos, while they work on the other side. This other photo shows kind of the radiuses or intersections of 33rd and 32nd, where they are also starting to work, and you can begin to see how those turns will come into the roundabout. I know I have had a question about the kind of the slope on the 30
like a launch pad.
second. Thank you. That will change. That will be the optics, and as the continued progression work, it's not going to be like that every time you drive. Obviously, as the project keeps going, that will change. And of course, it's been a little rainy, so they've had to work through that. Something that is interesting, I think. So as of July 20th, we have weekly meetings, get weekly updates. So July 20th, this Monday, they had worked 51 calendar days, and their estimated work completion is 8%. So we're 8% done with the project. And that's it. Any questions?
Good stuff.
Good stuff. A lot of progress.
Is that you on there, Sean?
That is actually Sean Clark. I know that guy, but it's another Sean. So. I have a question for Melissa since she stayed here. I know you want to talk to us. What was the occupancy rate with the last couple tournaments in town, softball tournaments? Or do you know off the top of your head?
I have to say my name. Melissa Dixon, Convention and Visitors Bureau. We get our reports the Wednesday after, so we don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you that it was sold out because we were calling around trying to get comped rooms for the umpires for the tournament. So it will be pretty high. Yep.
A lot of people in town. Thank you.
Thanks.
I really appreciated all the signage and stuff that you did for during that tournament. I was really impressed. I hadn't even thought about approaching it that way, but of course you always think of it ahead. So you're appreciated. It was good stuff.
Commissioner Melick?
All I have this evening is everybody be safe. Keep practicing those safety measures for the COVID-19.
Burgess?
Yeah, I'll make a final statement. I wasn't sure how motivated I was going to be to make a little bit of a longer final statement as we close our meeting, but if this is mostly for those that are out there still watching. I was glad that Dustin Ross came. I certainly didn't know he was going to be here, but because it's something in my final thoughts that I wanted to touch on, and I will here, in just speaking to governance and small governance. So when he was here talking about making local decisions, that was, he's not wrong, and so I'm glad that he was here to kind of emphasize that. because I'm glad to be sitting on this commission. I'm glad to be working with these commissioners, not just as commissioners, but as fellow community members. When I was running last year, as Mason mentioned earlier, when we were running last year, it's housing and quality jobs and water and recycling and things like that. There's no way we would have known. Nobody asked us, nobody foresaw, what would you do if your whole community was at risk of the virus. So, but it doesn't change why I ran, is because I felt making local decisions and being a part of a local decision is more impactful than what our state and government be, and I wanted to be a part of that, and that's certainly driven home this evening by how important local governance is. So I'm going to caution those a little bit that are going to fire out to us, that are going to call us tyrannical or dictators, or we're trying to turn Hayes into a police state, or whatever their analogies are going to be. You can't applaud taking authority and decision making away from a higher authority such as the governor. You can't applaud and say we need our decisions to be made locally by our people in our community that know what's going on, and then when the decision doesn't go the way you want, cry foul. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask for your fellow community members and commissioners to make, that's where the decisions need to be made, and applaud that it was taken away from the governor. You can't worship at the altar of small local governance and then say your rights have been taken away by some elite. Tomorrow I'm going to go back and work with my clients, trying to navigate their financials through this uncertain time, and I'm trying to do the best I can and improve their lives. Mason's going to go back and work at the county tomorrow, trying to improve our county. And Sandy's will be out in the community raising funds for nonprofits to make our community better. Sean will be at his store.
I just drink.
Serving up wine, making people happy. And a beautiful all-American Main Street, and Ron will be out there crawling around on the floor, working for somebody's home or house or business or apartment or whatever he's improving. He's going to be out there improving somebody's lives. That's what I would remind, again, as we probably get some of that feedback, is, while the decision might not have been where you wanted it to be as far as the outcome, we're all part of the community. That's the whole idea of local governance, is to be a community member and make the decisions, and we have to live with the same decisions that we make each and every time we vote. So I would caution those that are going to be upset again to the next time there's going to be a decision and you want it to be local, we very well might be on your side at that time. So that's where the decisions have been made, and again, that's kind of my belief on how I do believe local government should make the decisions. That's why I'm here. So that I'll wrap up this evening with those
Thank
comments.
you. Commissioner Ruder.
I did vote against the ordinance, but I want to encourage everybody to continue to follow CDC, KDHE, and your local health director. Jason and his team are doing a fantastic job of giving us press releases all the time, and in those press releases, make sure you read the entire thing and not just the numbers. He gives you exactly what we need to do as a community to slow the spread. When his team calls you and says isolate, he means isolate, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Do not sit on the couch and sleep in the same bed as the person you're trying to isolate from. We need to slow this spread with not just the masks. We need to social distance. You need to wash your hands. You need to isolate when you're required to quarantine. You have to follow these things if you want to mitigate this risk. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So I want everybody to take that individual responsibility and please follow these guidelines from our local health director. He knows our community. He knows what's specific to our cases, and you need to listen to him. He's employed here at the county level to take care of all of Ellis County, and he's doing a fantastic job, and I appreciate what he's doing. And I appreciate the community stepping up. Even before the mandate was passed tonight, we had a lot of businesses step up and do the right thing. I want people to come together. It's this divisiveness is nothing but toxicity in our community, and I know our community is not like this. I've seen it growing up. I mean, you drive down Main Street, you go to a park, and it's people enjoying life. I think we need to, like I said, I think it was last week, we need to social distance from social media. There is life outside the comment section on social media. Please protect yourselves and stay involved in your community as safely as you possibly be. That is my my statement. Thank you,
sir.
Commissioners.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Well, I think it's really interesting that Commissioner Burgess and Commissioner Reuter ran because there was lots of fun stuff in the future. Hey, when I decided to run, we had in front of us roundabouts and unions, and that was not as much fun as this is. I said a lot tonight, and I said it from a place of emotion, but also from data and science. What I'd really like to make clear tonight is how much I appreciate everybody coming forward and giving their opinions and offering whichever side it was on. I hope tonight you realized that the people that did that actually probably made the decision on this ordinance. And I think you should consider that as you look for other things you want to do in this community. For sure, Commissioner Burgess and I were taking tallies as they came in. And I think that was really important. This is the most I've ever had anybody interact with me on anything in the city, and I've been on the commission for 4 years. I'm really another reason to be proud of this amazing place we call home. Thank you.
I would agree. What you just said about those people who spoke out probably made a decision. It definitely made it easier for me. I had some good friends here tonight that disagreed with me, and that's hard. That's hard. But I care about this community a lot. I know you guys do. And there wasn't one of us that came tonight was looking forward to this. I know that for a fact. I was out in Goodland, Kansas today having lunch, and I wore my mask. And out there, they looked at us like, "What are these people doing?" You know what? Hayes has been known to be a leader in Western Kansas, and people look to us for, believe it or not, people look to us for change. And we're forward thinking out here. I know that kind of stole that from Fort Hayes, but we really are. And this is hard. This is different, but we're going to get through this. And how awesome of a statistic would it be is Hayes stopped it faster than anybody else. We don't know that, and we won't know it anytime soon. And I anticipate, I actually got a nice social media post a little bit ago. Wasn't so nice. Yeah, it is what it is. I envision reading tomorrow that, people are going to say, I seen Manhattan put it in a couple weeks ago, and their numbers have went up. We're not going to know in 2 weeks. We're not going to, I think they're still going to rise for a while. But if we do everything possible, I think we can, I don't know, beat's the right word, but I think we can slow the spread. I really believe we can do that. And I think we did the right thing tonight. We won't know. And somebody said the other day, the only thing that we'll be able to tell you guys if you're right was history. And, history is being made as we speak. So, commissioners, I commend every single one of you guys. We held our composure. It was not easy. I'm such a softie. I told her I'm going to cry tonight. I didn't cry. I'm very proud of myself. I bit my tongue one time, but it's just hard. And I've been a previous job I had. They said many times that my passion. I have too much passion. I'll never lose that passion for this community. Never. I love this community. I appreciate everything we did tonight. Thank you guys. We're adjourned.